Want to take the roll?
Sure. Stephanie Barish,
Here.
Donna Bolin,
Here.
Susan Schaefer,
Here.
Matt Lane,
Here.
Kevin McCarthy, and Cassie Taylor.
Here as a
That's right.
ex officio.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. I believe there's some corrections, so you want to address the corrections and then we can take a motion and.
The correction I presented has already been made.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's right. There was, for the sake of the minutes, there was in the minutes from the last council meeting, the top said Behavioral Health Coordinating Council instead of Mental Health and Public Safety Fund Advisory Council. So because that was attributed to Scrivener's error, that's why the correction was made before this meeting.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve? Okay, motion by Susan Schaefer, second by Matt. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Is there any public comment? I don't see anybody.
Not as far I'm aware, nope.
So we'll move on to the next. And this item's for information only. Review of status of BHCC. And that would be you.
I just wanted to bring to attention of this group, although most of the people at this group have been a part of this, is that Behavioral Health Coordinating Council has begun work groups based on the priorities that were set in July, plus a temporary rules work group to just clarify additional pieces of functionality of the meetings in a more focused manner. The plan would be for the scope of work for each of those priorities for 2025 to be determined by those work groups by the end of 2024, so that information could be brought here and confirmed, even though under a normal year, that would have happened before the process, the budget was approved. So at this point, we don't anticipate that there will be any budget amendments asked for, but it will just be a clarification of the expected scope of work for those priorities that will be covered by the 1.5 million that was approved by this group previously. As far as what that means for this group, it might be my suggestion that this group plan to meet again maybe in January then, to have a special meeting to confirm those specific parts to the budget that would normally be a part of what gets brought to this group, but was not able to be a part of that because of the timing of when the changes with BHCC happened and when the budget was due to be completed. The only other thing that might call for a budget amendment would be if Behavioral Health Coordinating Council would elect for something to change so that monies were spent to assist with the Mental Health Action Plan revision process, if they wanted that to occur in 2024, or if we needed additional monies for 2025. But at this point are the only points that I would expect maybe a budget amendment would come to this group.
Any comments? Yeah.
Just a question. In terms of process, you mentioned potentially recommending this group come back together in January after the work groups have kind of built what that scope of work might look like under those strategic plans. Would that be informational, or would you be looking for some kind of decision-making by this group? Because my understanding is it was already made.
Right, the group, that is true that the group has already made the decision. I think at this point it would most likely be mostly informational. I would anticipate that I would probably collaborate with the different work groups to essentially create a sort of summary of those different scopes of work, and a recommendation of sort of how of that, at a very general kind of bird's eye view, how that spending might be split.
I would concur with Marita's explanation, but I would also add, if for some reason those work groups came up with plans that Marita, in her review of the scope of work, thinks that it will require more than 1.5 million, then it might be necessary to ask for a budget amendment to reallocate funds in 2025, just as an example. Not sure if that's going to be the case or not.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. The next item is anticipated process changes, which go to Stephanie's question. Yeah, I would like just some clarification. I know that our process now is sort of backward, but just like BHCC is putting together a process with Judge Foley, I think it might be a good idea for this, like what you said, we're gonna bring it back if necessary for an amendment, we're gonna do, it's not really clear. And I do better when there's, direction. I need direction. So, this is just a discussion. I want to hear what other people think about this too. Comments? Yeah.
I think process is very good and important. I would note that because this group has an upline to the executive committee of the county board, it would have to be in congruence with our county board policies and procedures.
Anybody else? No? Okay. We'll leave that up to administration. So the next items are for action, adoption of the bylaws amendments. And I'll turn it over to Marita on that.
In the bylaw amendments, apart from what is already listed, there is also something that we are attributing to Scrivener's error, and that is in the amendment section under Article 6, under adoption and amendment of bylaws. I don't think we've changed it yet in here. Section 2 says the FAC may adopt and amend these bylaws by a vote of 2/3 of the voting membership of the BHCC during an official meeting. And that is meant to be FAC, not BHCC. So that is the only other change that's not represented on the amendments that you see in front of you.
Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Kevin McCarthy.
So moved. I'll second.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Matt, second by Matt. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Alrighty. And the last item is to select an annual or special meeting for 2025. And we kind of alluded to that, but want to pull a date out of the hat?
The only other part that I wanted to add is that based on the standard budget cycle, the recommendation is that the annual meeting where we would approve an amount, where we recommend an amount to go to county board, be, I believe it was late August, like the 3rd or maybe the 4th week of August.
Just a suggestion that we may want to meet well ahead of that in case there are some disagreements on where some of this budget should go. And we may need more than one meeting. So I would say maybe June-ish.
Yeah, oh, Cassie, go ahead.
I appreciate what the sheriff is pointing out, because he is very familiar with our budgeting process with the county. I'm not sure I'll have a budget finalized and ready to present to this group, so it may be that the first meeting may be just preliminary plans if you'd like, but I won't have final numbers. That's that's where we got off this last meeting, was what
Okay.
I was trying to juggle numbers to the very last moment.
That makes more sense. So
So-
it's going through the process before and through you before it even sees this committee.
Correct.
That makes more sense. So August would probably work fine.
Okay.
So for our particular group, it would be, we would be reviewing and quote approving the recommendations from the BHCC, which would then kind of affect the budget that you put together and then come back to us for approval like in August. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Marita would have direction from BHCC. She would have had her budget meeting with me as administrator already. The sheriff would have met with the CJCC representatives and found out what their requests were from CJCC. And then I would compile that into something that's easy for this group to understand.
So August would be for the annual. Is there a need for a special, Susan?
This kind of reminds me of Board of Health and the way, since it's like a board, different board, and how some of the timing issues are based on when we're looking at a budget and then when you meet with department heads and stuff like that to create whatever. And then the group then has to then look at that and then make any adjustments they might want to make. And so, yeah, I would not maybe wait till towards the end of August. I think I'd be closer to shortly after maybe the cutoff or you know, just knowing that timing and the process there through all these times that I've had to do that, as to the amount of input and feedback that needs to maybe happen. So maybe some happy compromise between what the sheriff said, and the end of August, just because
Yeah, go ahead, Kathy.
So my only concern with that is you already have 2 extra groups that are meeting to discuss the needs, the CJCC and the BHCC. So I've got department heads and those 2 councils. Then it comes to this group, then it has to go through full board. And so I am completely okay with doing it earlier in August, but know that there might be amendments that come.
So you're saying you don't want 50 meetings, just 47?
So my follow-up question, though, is that when BHCC is going to identify the priorities for 2026, I guess then they'll have to have that identified before we can meet. So they're going to be halfway into the year before they can. This is that whole timing thing that
Yes,
the Board of Health
correct.
and, that
Yep.
I've seen so many times.
Yeah, and that's
that-
precisely what between Judge Foley and I are kind of helping, and between revision of the mental health action plan as well, planned for next year. That yes, then the plan would be that that some sort of plan for strategic priorities would be selected before this group would meet, so that.
Well, the BHCC would meet, what, in March for the first quarter?
Yes.
So then sometime, I mean, I don't know what they'd be doing in the first meeting, but sometime, yeah, between March and August would probably be a good idea.
The second quarterly meeting, between the first and the second quarterly meeting would probably be
Yes.
ideal. And then that's early, midsummer,
Right.
if we need to do that. Knowing that most of us are on the BHCC already and will be pretty well informed about what's happening on that board.
Right.
So I appreciate the opportunity to at least have a discussion. So when we get here in August, because that needs to be pretty snappy for you, right? We need to make decisions in that meeting, not start a conversation. So I appreciate the want some space. So if that works out such that between Q1 and Q2, there can be the strategic planning effort on BHCC, then we have something meaningful to talk about in preparation to just say yay, which is what you need at the end of August. Is that pretty much what I'm
Yes,
your
and then that would
process.
give, yes, and then that would give Marita time to put those into actual dollars and cents, because that takes a little bit of time too.
That's what we were talking about before you came in, process. I'm trying to look for process because, well, I know that it's
We're
kind of
inventing it.
backward this year, but, going forward, kind of would like to have the boundaries and kind of,
Awesome.
where we're going, so, yeah.
So does that rough out well? The Q1, Q2 BHCC strategic planning for rough recommendations by early summerish or by
Yeah.
Q2 meeting?
Yeah, I think so. And we're talking about.
And I'm
having
not
an
holding you
initial
to this. This
meeting
is an outline.
earlier than the initial late August, right? We're talking about maybe 2 meetings, like, or no,
For BHCC or?
for FAC.
For FAC.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah,
But then the following year,
I-
hopefully it would only have to be one if all the process falls into place. I mean, well, that. guess
I
had
mean,
to
my
be-
plan,
Sorry.
I do think that there's space for an extra meeting this year because of kind of the background, the backward way that we've done it, which is why we started maybe talking about January. But based on everything that we've already talked about, if we still planned to meet in late August, yes, the plan would still be for BHCC to have strategic priorities and for me to have put dollars and cents attached to those priorities to be able to bring that to this group in late August.
Okay. Okay. So
I don't think that we need 2 meetings in August.
we don't need this group doesn't need
This-
2
this
meetings
group,
in
right,
August,
right,
no,
yeah.
but there might need to be one January or February
Yes, January,
or
February,
March to
yeah.
get feedback from BHCC. Because they'll be meeting in December and then again in March. So I don't know what the agendas are going to be, but anyway, yeah, Stephanie?
Thinking about process and the fact that this year is kind of that refresh, restart year, I'm also thinking from the perspective of the agencies sitting on the council in terms of timeline, right? So the work groups are just now starting, and then the work groups are supposed to kind of develop those strategic plans and priorities for services that would then be kind of rolled out, hopefully, right, come spring and summer, because you're going to have application processes and you're going to have people starting things while we are simultaneously talking about the next year. And in theory, that sounds smooth, but thinking about how agencies are going to be trying to think about new things and instituting new things while still talking about what comes next. And I'm sharing this, I don't know that I'm really going to suggest a change, but I think I'm sharing it more to just heighten awareness of where the challenge, I think, on participating agencies who are both part of the planning process, right? The work groups are going to be some time and input, and then any new projects or opportunities are going to be more time. And then so I say all this, I think, just to manage a bit of expectation about how quickly and smoothly things will be happening and moving in these first couple of years. I think this first one is definitely backwards, but I think recognizing that even the next round is probably going to be a little slower and maybe a little off from where we want it to be because we are getting a slow start.
That's why you're on this board.
And the fact, besides of implementing whatever, the update to the mental health action plan. Those same
Right,
individuals and
absolutely.
same agencies are going to be doing a lot
Yes.
of that work.
Yes,
So there's
even
there's
what
going to be a
next year
lot of
looks
work
like is
put
still
on those
different.
agencies
Yes.
with expectations that maybe are not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Cassie.
So then, just in summary,
You got all that?
in January, our special meeting will be to talk about fiscal year 2025, which is our calendar year 2025. And then just a few months later, we will be working on updating the mental health action plan and creating budgets for 2026. And so that August meeting is going to be focused on 2026. Yes, okay.
So January is still 2025, more or less, and then, okay, that sounds right.
January meeting, we're talking about 2025 for the purpose of. Sorry. So the January 2025 meeting, the general topic is the 2025 budget?
Yes.
And we're going to be discussing what about the 2025 budget in that January meeting?
It would be more kind of a formalized version of the additional information that we would expect that under normal circumstances would have been at that August meeting that we already had. So the additional detail about how that 1.5 million, based on the strategic priorities, based on the work of the work groups. So it's less of a discussion and more of a here's how what BHCC has worked on has ended up splitting up this 1.5 with space for possibly there being it is still possible that there could be a recommendation for a budget amendment, but we don't know that
So
yet.
mostly a report on the proposals that were funded or the projects that were got funded, however, whatever
That
language
would
we're
be-
using.
yeah.
Depending on what comes our way
Right.
for the 1.5.
Yep.
Okay, and then you anticipate next cycle, that amount of information being happened in the early-ish,
Yes.
sometime in the August timeframe,
Yes.
if
that,
I'm tracking correctly.
Yeah. So basically a combination, what happens in the January 2025 meeting and what happened in our first August 2024 meeting would be what happens in the, a 2026 version would happen in the August 2025 meeting that we have.
Okay. So, we have a meeting in August and one in January. Do we need to set a specific date, or are you gonna do a doodle?
We can do whichever. If people have schedules ready, we could set it, or we could plan to send out information later.
I prefer doodle.
A
Yeah,
doodle
I
is
think a
preferred.
Doodle.
And at this point, a year in advance, or, well,
Yeah.
10 months in advance.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier.
Yes.
Now, how has it been, what is this? This is the last week of September. It was supposed to be Friday or something, but anyway, the last week of the month. Should it be the last week in January? Aim for the doodle, aim for that
Oh,
week?
sure.
No? Oh, where are you gonna be golf? Where you, oh, you're gonna be on a golf vacation?
Where's your community pride?
Well, it could be the week before. I'm just throwing it out. I mean, mid-January, you know, people have to, people probably need to recover from the holidays. or
Yeah,
whatever, so-
I'd probably be shooting for three or 4 weeks after the December BHCC meeting.
Okay,
Don't expect much out of me in March,
Okay.
my cycle.
Oh, sure.
Don't expect me
Yep.
to show up at anything or do anything that is
Understood.
devoted to that.
okay, so. Should we just put January 2025 and then August 2025?
Sure. Yep. And I can plan to send additional information to this group so that we can select meetings and
Okay.
we'll be sure
And
to
the August
share it
meeting
publicly.
should tie to Cassie's budget stuff. Time-wise, I mean, timeframe. Okay, okay. Acceptable to everybody? Okay. Do we need a voice vote on this? Everybody in favor, say aye. Okay, opposed? No. Okay. Any comments or anything before we adjourn? I have something to say. Doesn't necessarily have to do with fact, but for the housing and just in general, Bloomington City Council passed an ordinance about, that includes sheltering. And where it can be located, zoning ordinance, where it can be located, and sort of differentiated between the type, but I talked to the city manager and asked him to speak to BHCC to get more specifics that everybody's speaking the same language. So anyway, just thought you'd like to know that information. So,
I'll just chime in, and you may or may not have more recent information. I understand that the one project that was thought dead is not. From what I understand, the seller re-engaged with the potential buying agent. So the reports of its death have been greatly exaggerated, I guess. I don't know what's going on with the seller, and so, but the message I got is the deal's not dead. So I know that's controversial for some, but seems like it's an opportunity. It's still somewhat alive. I don't know how that affects what we do and how we do it and when we do it, but just wanted to share that.
well, you have inside information. I didn't hear that. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. Second? Okay. Voice vote, everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?